Jovan Buha! Buha!
Yo, yo. Yo, yo.
I'm Jovan Buha, NBA reporter for Buha's Block, and welcome to another episode. On today's show, we're going to be doing things a little differently. This is a get to know me episode, so we will not really be touching on the NBA or the Lakers. There are some questions about my career. There's a question about my favorite non-Lakers teams to watch. So I will be touching on some basketball stuff, my origin story, etc. But I'm also going to be touching on my favorite movies, ranking Drake intro tracks, talking about my other passions and what video games I play, and different things that go off of the typical topics we talk about on here and on my lives. So before we get started, you guys know the drill. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. Turn on channel notifications and like and comment on this video. And for those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. All right, first question here from at GLV2215. What inspired you to pursue sports journalism? Was this a dream you've had since childhood? If not, what other career would you see yourself pursuing? Let's get into it. Let's get into my origin story. So I fell in love with basketball when I was 8 years old. Shout out to Josh Pizer for introducing me. And from that point on, that was about 2000-ish, 2001, fell in love with the Lakers, fell in love with Shaq and Kobe. And I watched every Laker game basically from that point on. And would on school nights, do my homework quickly and then get ready to watch a Laker game. And my mom has stories about we would have dinner plans with other families, and I'd be throwing tantrums because I did not want to miss a Laker game, and I would have to record it, and then I would come home after dinner and watch it. And I was completely obsessed with the Lakers and with basketball. So that is how I got into basketball. From that point on, I started playing in 4th grade, and I played all the way through high school, played for my varsity team, played 2K religiously, and would also get into simulations. And I had a basketball half court in my backyard that my dad and my grandfather made for me and my brother. And so I would play on my basketball hoop, and I would simulate games between the Lakers versus Team X or Team X versus Team Y. And I had notebooks where I would put the stats and I would put the rotations. And so even when I was 8, 9 years old, that's how I was thinking about basketball and how to consume it, and building out how I would build rotations, and similar to a lot of the content I do now. And then around 15, 16, you start applying to colleges or thinking about where you want to go. And I decided around that point I wanted to do something with basketball, with the NBA specifically, but I wasn't quite sure what. So I considered potentially trying to be a coach or going into a front office. But then one of my friends who was in our high school's journalism program recommended that I try out journalism, and I try out covering our school's high school sports, or covering the NBA, maybe writing some NBA columns for the newspaper. So I was considering that because I'd always been a good writer. I would always get A's on all my essays and school papers. It was never something I really considered, but I decided to give it a shot. And there was a bit of a sliding doors moment for my career because I actually missed the deadline to apply for journalism. I applied for my senior year to be in the journalism class, and my friend had to advocate to the teacher directly on my behalf. And it was in the balance for a little bit as to whether I was going to get in or not. And I finally got in and ended up joining as a senior. And it was kind of funny because I was most of the first year students in the journalism program are freshmen and sophomores. So I was the only senior at the time. And so I'm kind of learning the ropes of journalism with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, but got to cover sports primarily during my senior year, and I just fell in love with it. And then I went to USC, where I studied print and digital journalism, and I minored in sports media studies. And then my sophomore year was when I got my big breaks. I earned an internship at Grantland, which was Bill Simmons' new website that he had just started. It had started in the summer a few months earlier, and I was a fall intern and was an intern there for a year. And it was at the LA Live ESPN LA offices. So that also allowed me to meet a bunch of ESPN editors. And through that, I was able to start freelance writing for ESPN.com as a sophomore. And I was a young sophomore. I've always been younger for my grade. I started college at 17. So I was actually writing for ESPN.com at 18 years old. And to my knowledge, at least at the time, I was the youngest writer that they were paying in any capacity. So that was something that I was really proud of, and that was really cool. And freelance wrote for them through college. And so how that worked basically was anytime they needed me to go to a Lakers or Clippers practice or game, or maybe cover on behalf of another reporter, maybe Dallas was in town and Tim McMahon couldn't come out for whatever reason, or Ian Begley at the time couldn't come out to cover the Knicks or the Nets, they would send me to those practices. They would send me to those games to cover and write a newser or write a game story, and then pay me like $50 to $100 per article. So did that through college, and then coming out of college, I went to Fox Sports for a couple of years in this hybrid writer/editor role, doing not a lot of glamorous stuff like newsletter writing and a lot of editing. And I was not interested in editing, but I wanted to work at a big company. After a couple of years, I decided to look for the next step, which ended up being going to ESPN for a couple of years as an editor, primarily doing social and live content for them. And then my final few months there, transitioned to being an NBA editor. And then at that point, I was at a crossroads, 25 years old. I felt like I needed to become a reporter. I needed to bet on myself and figure out a way to get that phase of my career going full time. So started to put some feelers out, and it just so happened that someone I knew from ESPN was leaving for The Athletic, and they were suggesting me for a beat writer role, and I ended up getting it. And I covered the Clippers for 2 years, then got switched over to the Lakers and have covered the Lakers for the past 5 seasons as a beat writer for The Athletic, and then now have gone independent. And so that is my career arc. That is my origin story. And if you have any follow-up questions in the comments, let me know, and I could do future videos or future questions answering some of your follow-ups. Next question from @NathanEmerson9343. Hey, Jovan, I love the videos. What other passions do you have besides basketball/the Lakers? This is a fun one because it got me thinking about what my passions outside of basketball are. And there aren't many. For those who work a lot and have a family, you know, you don't have a lot of time for other interests or hobbies or passions. And so for me, I work all the time, every day. I'm basically working all day. And so this is my passion, my interest, my focus. I'm also married, so I prioritize any off time I have. I try to spend it with my wife. I also have my son who lives in Henderson, Nevada. So there's a lot of scheduling that goes into trying to be out there any free weekend I have, or finding a way to get him out here and trying to see him as much as possible. And so I would say 90 to 95% of my time is spent either working or with my wife and or my son. But for the other 5 to 10%, I do have interests outside of this. And I am someone who, I don't have many interests, but the interests, I like to go deep. I'm a depth person. So the interests I have, I go very deep on in terms of just how much I'm into them and know about them. So some of the things for me are sneakers. I'm a huge sneakerhead. I have over 50 pairs of sneakers, and that is, I whittled it down a bit, but big Jordan guy, which is funny because the whole LeBron versus Jordan thing, I'm on the LeBron side of the GOAT debate, but there's no debate about the GOAT shoes. It's Jordans, and I have over 30 pairs of Jordans, big ones guy, 3s, 4s, 11s. Those are my 4 favorite pairs. So big sneaker guy, big Jordans guy. I've cut back on how many sneakers I've purchased recently over the last couple of years. And I've spent well over I don't even want to guess how much money I've spent on sneakers, but it's been a lot. And I've got the sixes over my shoulder there, and then I got the shattered backboard ones there. And so been collecting really since I would say like 2014 was when I started collecting Jordans. And again, it slowed down recently, but I've been collecting for well over a decade. Other thing for me is fashion. I'm into GQ and Valet Mag and some of the big fashion sites. And it's funny because I don't like, I'm not really buying crazy clothing. Like I have my uniform, which is a black t-shirt, as you guys have seen. I think I've worn a black t-shirt in basically every video I've done. I think I've worn a couple gray shirts and like a white shirt once, but typically only wear black t-shirts and then switch it up with my pants or my jeans. And then I'm a big shacket and jacket guy, a bunch of chore coats and workwear jackets and stuff. And then of course, a lot of Jordans and streetwear sneakers. So that's been my outfits and stuff. Also into my hair and hair products, that I've tested over 40 products and got banned briefly on Amazon for buying hair products, and really get my hair cut every 10 to 14 days. So really into that and just maintaining my hairstyle, and that's a really big thing for me. Also really into coffee. I love going to coffee shops, working out of coffee shops, trying new coffee, and like that's an essential for me. Is I have to go to a coffee shop at least a couple times a week. I have to try new coffee places. Like I love it. I'm also really into movies and TV shows. My mom is an actress, so I grew up very aware of the business and going with her to auditions and sets and just all that was formative for me, and probably partly why I'm into entertainment and being on camera. I'm an AMC Stubs A-list member, so I try to go to at least one movie, if not 2 to 3 per month. And so constantly watching a show or something, always watching something. So big into movies and TV shows. Then a more recent obsession of mine over the last few years has been fantasy football. I've fallen in love with it, and I'm obsessed, especially in like this part of the year, the month or so leading into drafts. I have 2 drafts coming up, one on Friday, one on Monday. So really excited for this season, and I do my own custom cheat sheets and rankings and stuff. And then the final thing would be Fortnite, which has been a big thing for me over the last few months, as my son is obsessed with it and wants to play it anytime I'm with him. So I've gotten more into Fortnite and just the Fortnite universe and the skins and the emotes and all that stuff has been cool. And for me, bringing back a slice of my childhood, as I was a big gamer growing up. So that has been fun getting into that. And it's also cool that you can play on your phone. So I'll play, I have an Xbox, but I also have my phone, so I could play it anywhere at any time. So those would be my interests. But again, say it's like 5 to 6 things that I'm interested in outside of basketball / the Lakers. But those things, again, only take up about 5 to 10% of my time. Most of my time is spent either working in some capacity or spending time with my wife and my son. Next question from @SkyFalcon5, top 5 countries / places you would like to visit. I'm gonna give you a list of 5 places plus a couple of honorable mentions. Number 1 for me by far is Tokyo. Everything I have seen and heard and read about Tokyo, I just love, and I think I would have an amazing time there. Number 2 is I've never been to Italy, so I really want to go to Italy, and really anywhere in Italy. You could pick any of the major cities, but specifically the Amalfi Coast is somewhere that my wife and I want to go and want to take a vacation there. Number 3 would be Greece, specifically Mykonos or Santorini. Number 4 would be Sydney, Australia. And number 5, Shanghai, China. Have to do a Buha's Block meetup out there, and would love to meet up with all of the Lakers fans in China. A couple of honorable mentions would be Dubai, which I've never been there, would love to go, and also the Philippines. I have a big Filipino audience. I could see the demographics breakdown on my channel, and my mom actually grew up partly in the Philippines. Her dad was in the Air Force, and she moved around a lot and was in the Philippines for a few years. So she has familiarity there and spoken highly of living in the Philippines. So would love to visit there and also have a Buha's Block meetup there. Thankfully, I've been able to travel a lot through my job. So I've been to almost every major American city that I've wanted to go to. And then with my dad being from Serbia and my mom being from Puerto Rico, I've been able to travel a lot with them. They love traveling. So I've been to a lot of the major European cities and countries, been to Spain and France and England and Germany and of course Serbia. And so I've been to a lot of places that I've wanted to go. And so some of those ones are not, of course, on my top 5 list. As a bonus, I wrote down my top 5 favorite cities I've ever been to. And you guys will see a trend here. I'm a big city guy. I just love big cities. I'm not a outdoorsman. I'm not really a nature person. I'm not someone who rural or whatever. Like I like big cities. I am spoiled in that sense, and I fully admit it, acknowledge it, embrace it. So for me, my top 5 cities I've ever been to: LA number 1, Paris number 2, New York number 3, London number 4, and Amsterdam number 5. Of course, I had to rep LA, born and raised here, and never plan on leaving. Next question from @Dagger3. Would love to hear about working in traditional sports media versus being an independent creator like you are now. What's the upside? What are some disadvantages? What advice would you give for peeps who want to cover sports for a living? You came to the right place because I have a lot of thoughts. And for some context here, I left The Athletic 2 months ago. So I've been independent, a solo creator, self-employed for the past couple of months. And that comes after being at big companies for over a decade. Again, a couple years at Fox Sports, a couple years at ESPN, when really I was there for even longer when you factor in my college tenure, but a couple years there, and then 7 years at The Athletic. So across Fox Sports, ESPN, and The Athletic, I worked for major companies for over a decade. And so I have that experience of what it's like to work at a major company. And now I have the more recent experience of what it's like to work on my own. I will say that part of this 8 weeks or so, I've been traveling. I've gone on 4 trips, a couple of vacations, one with my wife and my son, and then one with my wife for our anniversary trip. Also went to Summer League, went out for my son's first day of school. So I've been traveling a lot. My son has also been out here for part of it. I like to decrease the workload when I'm with my son. And it's also the off season. So outside of the draft and free agency and the Luka extension and a little bit of Summer League, I haven't really gotten a taste of what it's like to be covering games and practices and just the schedule, the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month of the NBA season and that grind as a solo creator yet. So I will have an update for you, let's say in like April, May, or June of 2026 compared to now. But I did take some notes for you, and I will give you my perspective on some of the upside and the downside. To me, the upside is complete control and freedom. So I make my own schedule now, and I don't answer to anybody other than myself. I answer to you guys as the audience, but it's really myself and the audience and trying to balance that. But I control what and when I produce content. So I can go live right away. I could not go live right away. Like one of the challenges before was something would happen and then I'd immediately have to check in with my editors and I'd immediately have to start sourcing stuff and figuring stuff out. And so I'd probably have to write something first before going live. Now I can go live right away. I still like to do a little bit of digging and talking to people before I go live just to make sure I know what I'm talking about and have an informed opinion. And maybe I can report something or share something with you guys. But I am in control of that. Of sometimes it is worth just going live and talking about it right away. Sometimes I still want to do that digging, but now I don't have to write something or report to anybody else. It's about me and my relationship with the audience. I think the other big thing is financial upside. So someone who's worked for these companies for over a decade, I can say, you have your salary, and regardless of your output, regardless of your value to the company, you are making a number, and maybe there's a bonus, or maybe you get a promotion, or when your contract's up, you resign at a higher number, you get your raise, but like you are making a certain amount of money. And depending on the job and the role in the company, that could be great, but you are capped at a certain amount of money. And now I can make as much as I want, as a solo creator, as a self-employed reporter and journalist, like I can make millions of dollars. I'll get to the downside, and we'll touch on the floor, right? Could be zero, but I certainly can make as much money as I want. And there's now potentially things with brand deals or memberships or merch that I can do that I couldn't previously do. So I think creativity is another big one where I can create the type of content I want to create and not within certain confines of editorial input or dictating certain things. And there would be times in my career where I would be pushed or nudged in a certain way of, we have to talk about this, we have to cover this. And now I can cover and talk about whatever I want. And I try to operate that way in general. I really like it. It's just the way I operate. I don't like covering and doing stuff that I don't want to do, but certainly there have been times where I've been nudged in a certain direction, let's say, and now I can do whatever I want and cover things however I want, and also hop on new trends if there's a new technology, new platform, just new content forms. I can play around with different things and figure out what works for me. And I think the final thing for me is just being more honest and transparent. And I've always tried to be as honest and transparent as I can be. It's got me in trouble sometimes, especially with the aggregators, but I think I could be more free and just honest and transparent with how some of these things work behind the scenes, and trying to give you guys the most direct information and access possible. Now, in terms of downside, I mentioned it a little earlier, but no safety net, right? So before at The Athletic, at ESPN, at Fox Sports, I had a salary, and as long as I was not like mailing it in and on the verge of getting fired, I was going to make that amount of money. And now there's no guaranteed floor. There's no guaranteed salary. And even in the off season, the YouTube ad revenue can fluctuate. The listenership on the audio side can fluctuate. So there's a lot of variance with my month-to-month income. I was under contract with The Athletic through August, actually, so I have been getting paid by them. But starting September 1st, I am no longer under contract with The Athletic, and I will be making money primarily off of YouTube and the audio form, ads on that side. So a lot of variance with that. The potential of access being revoked is a big one, where at The Athletic, if I wrote something or reported something and the Lakers were upset, if they tried to revoke my credential, The Athletic would get into a fight with them, not a literal fight, but they would push back, and there would be an infrastructure in place to help support. We've seen some of these situations happen in the media, but there would be a level of backing behind me, a level of support that right now, if I report or say something that the Lakers don't like, they could just revoke my credential, and I'm gonna push back and fight them on that. But I don't have the same level of backing and support in that sense. Less travel, which affects my job a little bit, certainly helps to be at games in the locker room, and I'm going to be doing that for all home games, and I am going to be traveling a bit, but typically I would go to 30 to 35 road games. Now I'll probably be going to 10 to 15. That does affect the job a little bit. And then I think there's also a status that comes with working for a big company, where you say you work for The Athletic, or you work for ESPN, or you work for Fox Sports. And that's more of an ego thing than anything, because I think working for Buha's block is just as great, if not better, than working at any of those places. But of course, just being someone who's been in the industry and knowing how these things work, I still think there's an old media model and people that are attached to how things used to be. And just like in any industry, there's always a status thing with working at certain places. So that's certainly an adjustment for me. In terms of advice, I say 3 things consistently. Number 1, start today and try everything. Write, record audio, record video, do some editing of both writing and audio and video, do social content for all the platforms, and just figure out what you like and what is most enjoyable for you. What are you best at? And try to marry those two things and figure out what that looks like. Number 2 would be to network. And that's been a key to my success, in my opinion, has been basically everyone in the industry, be it editors or other writers, key decision makers, anyone that I've wanted to get to know or grab a cup of coffee with. I've been able to do that. And not just, now because I have a network and know a bunch of people, but even coming up in college or early in my career, I would ask people if we could get lunch, if we could get coffee, if we could have a phone call. And I was able to do that with a lot of key people in the industry. And that put me on their radar, developed a rapport with them, and it expanded my network. And then, I would always end every call or coffee meeting or lunch meeting with who else do you think would be good to talk to for what I'm trying to achieve? And then they would potentially help me get in touch with that person, right? So I think that's a big thing, is networking. And then the third and final thing to me is, if you really are serious about this, I think you need to move to a sports city and try to start covering games and or practices for a blog, for a radio station, for a podcast, for a newspaper, whatever it is, but try to get your foot in the door in some capacity and start going to games, start going to practices, go to as many things as possible and do as much as you can. Let's just think about this for a second. If you're living in Iowa and you want to cover the Lakers, you can cover them remotely, because actually most of the people who cover the Lakers on YouTube don't live in Los Angeles, don't go to games, and they're able to cover them remotely. However, I think it just depends what you want to do. If you want to be a reporter, if you want to be boots on the ground at these things, I think you then have to consider moving to LA, or in the case of Iowa, maybe it's moving to Denver, or maybe it's moving to Oklahoma City and somewhere a little bit closer to you, and then covering it that way, and then eventually making your way over to LA. So big things are start today and try a little bit of everything to figure out what you really want to do. Network, coffees, lunches, phone calls, and then try to move to a sports city for whatever sport you want to be covering, because I do think it makes a difference being there in person versus doing so remotely. Next one from Quavi777, 4 favorite movies, eyes emoji. Are there any films you're looking forward to this year? Yes, I am a big movie guy. There are a lot of films I'm looking forward to, and this was really difficult for me to narrow it down to 4 films, but I did it for you. So I will give you, I guess the letterbox, 4 movies. I'll give you my 4. Number 1 is Superbad, favorite movie of all time. That was my coming of age movie. Came out while I was in high school. I think it was when I was going into high school. So that was a very formative movie for me in many ways. It was also filmed in LA, so I recognize a lot of the places that they go to, and it just love Jonah Hill, love Michael Cera. Don't tell my wife, but I had a big crush on Emma Stone. So Superbad, all-time movie for me. Number 2 is Drive. I think it's an absolutely iconic movie. One of Ryan Gosling's better performances. He's one of my favorite actors. It's got action. It's got drama. It's a bit of a thriller. It's got a love story in there. I love Drive, and I just, the visuals, the aesthetic, I love it all. Number 3 is The Dark Knight. I'm typically blocking it with my head, but you guys can see here, I got Batman behind me. It's actually The Batman. It's the Robert Pattinson one, but Dark Knight is one of the best, if not the best, comic book / superhero movies ever. And Batman is my favorite superhero, probably my favorite character, period, of any fictional character. And I just love The Dark Knight. And to me, it's the most rewatchable movie. If it's on, I will watch it. And then the 4th one, I could have gone a bunch of different ways, but I went with Wedding Crashers. So Superbad's kind of the coming of age high school movie. Wedding Crashers, I think, is more of the young to middle-aged adult coming of age movie. But I mean, just Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, Rachel McAdams, Bradley Cooper, Christopher Walken, just so many iconic lines and performances. And I really miss the rated R raunchy comedy. I just loved those movies of Wedding Crashers and American Pie and 40-Year-Old Virgin and Pineapple Express and just Forgetting Sarah Marshall and I Love You Man. I Love You Man, actually, that one's up there too. That's probably my number 5 one, but there's so many movies: The Matrix, Man on Fire, Big Deadpool Guy, big Spider-Man guy, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Pulp Fiction, John Wick. There's so many movies I love. In terms of movies I'm looking forward to for the rest of the year, Caught Stealing, the new one with Austin Butler and Zoe Kravitz that's coming out. Him, which is the NFL horror film about being the GOAT. One Battle After Another with Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo is my favorite actor of all time. The Smashing Machine with The Rock. Good Fortune, new Aziz Ansari movie, also with Keanu Reeves. Mortal Kombat 2, Marty Supreme with Timothée Chalamet. So those are some of the movies I'm looking forward to the rest of the year. And then I still have to see F1, Naked Gun 2, and Nobody 2. So big movie guy, a lot of movies I love, and a lot of movies I still have to see. Next question from T. Whitley. Do you have any equipment recommendations when first starting up a podcast? I do. Yes, I have a lot of recommendations for you. So first, I'll share what I currently have just so you guys are aware of what I'm using and you could copy it. I've had several friends who are trying to up their content game ask me about the equipment I use and have gone out and purchased the exact things that I have. So go for it. Like there's no gatekeeping here. There's no secrets. So my mic is the Electro Voice RE20. I originally had a Shure MV7. I upgraded to a Shure SM7B, and I love the Shure SM7B. That's probably the one you recognize the most. It's like the most popular podcasting microphone out there right now. But I felt my voice sounds better with the Electro Voice RE20. And for those who've been following me for a while, you know I experimented with this a few times. I actually bought it like 4 times and returned it, and then eventually decided to keep it and switch over. I want to say I switched over in like January, February to this full time. So I had the Shure SM7B before that. I use a Rodecaster Duo as my audio interface. And what I like about that is you could do EQ. I'm not a big EQ guy. I'm not a big audio engineering person, but you can do basic, actually high level EQ on this. And it helps with the live process and just doing some of the EQ beforehand so I don't have to do it in post-processing. I use a Sony ZV-E10 camera with a Sigma 16 millimeter f1.4 lens. Then I have an Elgato Camlink with a 4K HDMI cord to turn the camera into a webcam. And I have a dummy battery in the camera running at all times so it never turns off or dies. So for my lights, I have a Godox ES30 on one side, and I have an Amaran Verge Max. It's a new light I just got about a month ago on the other side. So it's more of a softer light. I think it's a little bit more flattering. Then behind me, I have a couple of Govee floor lamps. And then I just got a newer tube light. That's the brand, like, or newer or whatever, tube light. And I could link all this in the show notes below. In terms of starting out, I would recommend a Shure MV7. You could get the MV7 or the MV7 Plus, but I think it's a really good starting mic and could even be, like, a lot of people have it as a full-time mic, like Jason Timpf of Hoops Tonight has that mic, and that was like, that's a really good mic. I just wanted, I knew for me, I wanted to upgrade to like the best possible thing I could afford or you know, just the best possible thing. And I knew it was probably going to be a Shure SM7B or Electro Voice RE20, but you should test out mics and see what works best with your voice. So I would say either a Shure MV7 or a Rode Pod mic. I think those are both in that like 150 to 200 price point, and maybe even a little bit. Like, I think you should invest, like, a mic is a big thing, and you probably should invest at least, you're probably gonna be starting $100 to $150 at minimum for a quality mic. There are some exceptions, but I would start with in that range and see. You know, I think that the new MV7 is a little bit higher. It's closer to 300, but Rode Pod mic, depending on if you get it used or there's a sale, it can be around 200 or less. You can use your iPhone as your camera. Like, that's what I use on the road. I have one of these little Belkin phone magnets that I attach to either my laptop, or I got now like a little tripod to put my phone on it. But you can use your iPhone in continuity camera as a webcam, and it's really high quality. It's almost DSLR, you know, mirrorless camera quality. You know, I would say like not quite, but pretty close. And it's better in my opinion than a lot of webcams. I think, like, I went through a couple webcams that I just did not like the coloring and just the quality compared to my phone. Phone is much better in my opinion. And then the Shure MV7, you can actually just plug in with the USB to your computer and use that. But if you want to get an audio interface, you can do that as well. You could get a Scarlett Solo. You could even do like an older generation to make it a little bit cheaper. You could also do Vocaster 1, which that was what I used previously, and you could find that for like $60 to $100 online. And then lights and stuff, like it just depends on your setup and what you want to do. But there's plenty of YouTube videos on lighting setups. And so I could link all that below, but just wanted to share with you guys and not gatekeep what I do, what I use, and some advice of what I think is best to start off with. But really, I think as long as you have a phone or a computer, you don't even really need a mic. You can get a mic. You can get an audio interface, but that would, those would be some of my recommendations. Next question from @BJordan23. What type of video games do you play, and are there any upcoming games that you look forward to? I mentioned in the interest section, I play Fortnite. That's actually my 5 to 10% of time goes to Fortnite and fantasy football. I would say those are the two escapism things right now, currently over like the last few weeks. But I just love the Fortnite universe that they created. I think it's awesome. Big on online playing. So I love playing against other people. And like, that's always like those types of games have always appealed to me. But I mean, the big thing has been my son and bonding with him and playing with him. And, he's now been playing more at home, so we've been able to play remotely together. But anytime I'm with him, whether it's playing on the phone or playing on my Xbox, it's been great. But love the skins, have a bunch of skins, and able to, like, they just had the Power Rangers come out, and I was a huge Power Rangers fan growing up in the 90s. But like Batman skins or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or John Wick or Star Wars, like all these things that I had action figures and was obsessed with as a kid. It's like you're able to relive your childhood in the 90s and 2000s through Fortnite. So I think, they make a profit off of it, but that's been fun. It's low stakes, spending, I would say. So that's been really fun. Otherwise, I don't really play other video games. Growing up, huge Gears of War guy, was obsessed with Gears of War. That is what turned me into a night owl, because I would play all night and go to bed at 1 or 2 in the morning and then somehow get up and go to school. Grand Theft Auto, NBA 2K, and previously Live, RIP NBA Live, Halo, and then really throwing things back, Tekken, Hitman, and never really got into Call of Duty. I will say, I think I've always liked things that aren't as realistic, and that's where Gears of War or Halo, there's alien components to that. I know there was some alien stuff with COD, but just more so for me, and Grand Theft Auto, I guess, but that's kind of fantasy land, and that's fun. So those are the games I grew up playing with, and right now it's pretty much just Fortnite. Next question from Kurt Affair. What's your go-to karaoke song, and why is it Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way? For context, in case some of you missed this on Twitter, there was a viral video of me lip-syncing to Backstreet Boys' I Want It That Way, posted by Dan Wojcicki at an actual Lakers-Wolves game. And so I will show you guys the clip here. It's probably the song I know the best, so I would put it up there as my go-to karaoke song. If I had to pick another song, I would probably go with Headlines from Drake. That's probably my favorite song of his all time, or at least the one I know the lyrics to the best and can recite with my eyes closed. But I'll say in general, I am a pretty shy person. I am a reserved person. I've been told I can be quiet and mysterious. So I'm not this extroverted, like a lot of the stuff with me on camera is more like you got to be someone who I'm close with to get this version of me. And that's either my family and close friends, or all of you on the internet and out there. So you probably got to get me drunk to get me to do some karaoke. So get a few drinks in me, and I will consider it. Next question from Swagger DJ Mart Energy Swag. Quite the name there. Rank Drake's intro tracks on his 8 studio albums from best to worst. For those who don't know, I am a Drake stan. And I know with growing up in LA and having a very LA heavy audience, it's a rough time to be a Drake fan, going back to last year with the Kendrick beef and now the beef between him and LeBron. Not been a fun time to be a Drake fan, but I am a Drake fan. I've been a Drake fan since 2009. I've been to every one of his shows that he has played in LA since 2009. Like, not literally every show, but anytime he's on tour out here, I will go to at least one of the shows. So I've been to something like, I want to say 6 or 7 Drake concerts throughout my life. And I am a bigger Drake fan than you. I am a bigger Drake fan than anyone you know. So I will put my Drake knowledge to the test against anybody. Now, what I will say with this was a really difficult exercise. I am going to give you not just his studio albums, but I'm going to give you everything starting from So Far Gone and beyond, but I'm going to give you the joint projects with Future and 21 Savage, and I'm going to give you, I guess, More Life was a playlist, not even a mixtape or an album, but I'm going to include that. So I'm going to give you 15, a ranking of Drake's 15 intros, and this is going to be controversial because there is no right answer to this. This is all subjective. This is all what you prefer. And the type of Drake I prefer might be different than the type of Drake you prefer. And I will preface this with, I like singing Drake. I like Drake with the melodies. That's the one thing I can agree with that Kendrick said. I love Drake with the melodies. So some of the more melodic and poppy type stuff resonates more with me. Now, I do love Drake in his rap bag and the lyrical stuff and the beat stuff. I think some of the popular intro songs are going to be a little bit lower for me just because I think the beat is carrying it a little bit more and the listenability or the re-listenability isn't as high as some of the ones I'm going to put a little bit higher. But here is my list. Number 1, Over My Dead Body from Take Care. Classic. To me, favorite Drake album of all time, best Drake album of all time, and brings me back to really the peak of my Drake fandom and just his full ascension into like bona fide legend, superstar status, all that stuff. For me, number 2 is Legend from If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. Number 3, I'm going to cheat a little bit here, but Dreams Money Can Buy from Care Package, which was his album, not even really an album, more of like a mixtape, I guess, of all his Lucy's. So all these random songs that he had put out that were not on any albums. Love Dreams Money Can Buy. I think it's one of Drake's most underrated songs. This is where I'm going to get a little controversial because I have Virginia Beach, number 4, off For All the Dogs. And I know a lot of people, it's like a polarizing song. Some people don't like it. Some people think it's way too high, but that's my list. Number 5 is Rich Flex from Her Loss. Number 6, this is the one that's going to be controversial for some people, but Tuscan Leather off of Nothing Was the Same. I know people love this song. A lot of people have it as their best Drake intro or top 3 or whatever. I think it's carried a little bit by the beat and the beat switches. I think there's a lot of quotables on it. And I do love this song. Like, it is a great song, to be clear. My top 8 especially are all, to me, amazing songs. I just had to order them in some order. And I find myself listening to songs like Virginia Beach and Rich Flex more than Tuscan Leather, partly because it's a 6.5 minute song. So maybe for me, I prefer like the 2 to 3 minute, maybe 4 minutes tops, but 6.5 minutes for a song is a little bit long. But I do love it. It's still in my top 6, which is a big number if you're a Drake fan, but not as high as some of the other ones. Number 7, Free Smoke from More Life. Number 8, Champagne Poetry from Certified Lover Boy. And this is another one that people are going to think is a little bit too low. I also think this is one even more so than Tuscan Leather that's carried by the beat and the beat switches. I just prefer the 7 songs above it, but that's okay. I still love Champagne Poetry. Number 9, Lust for Life off of So Far Gone. I think this one is underrated. This is one that it pains me to put it this low. Number 10, Deep Pockets off of Dark Lane Demo Tapes. This one is also, I think, probably the most underrated one on this list and never talked about in his intro ranking list that I see. Number 11, CN Tower off of Some Sexy Songs for You. This one I also think should be higher, but it's just tough to he's got so many great intros. Number 12, Fireworks off Thank Me Later. This one's lower than I expected it to be. I thought it would be higher, but just didn't age as well. Number 13, Keep the Family Close off of Views. This one's a little too whiny for me, I'll be honest. And look, again, I'm a Drake stan. I love Drake. This is one of his whinier songs that I know a lot of people love this one, and maybe this is the most controversial one of all. I think Keep the Family Close, Tuscan Leather, and Champagne Poetry, most people have higher than me, so I'm just being straight up about it. Number 14, Survival off of Scorpion. I think a lot of people have this one a little bit higher too. Just this one was kind of whatever for me. And then 15, Digital Dash off What a Time to Be Alive, largely because it's more of a Future song than a Drake song. He just comes in for the last like 30 seconds. So that one, like, I really like the song. And actually, if I'm putting like how much I would listen to this, I probably would put it in the 9 to 10 range. It's more of a Future song than a Drake song. So I put it at number 15. But let me know in the comment section how wrong I am. Again, this is subjective, and me ranking Drake songs does not mean I don't like them. I love all these songs. Drake has very few misses in my opinion in terms of his catalog. So I would say I love 98% of his music. And so I love all these songs. It's just, you got to do a ranking when you're making your top 10 list with NBA players. Someone's got to be 4, someone's got to be 6, someone's got to be 8. Doesn't mean they're a bad player. Doesn't mean they're not an all NBA player. So let me know how wrong I am in the comment section. Next question from Quesarito. Have there been bumps in the road on your career path when you consider doing something else? How did you deal with that? Yes, I have had bumps in the road. And to bring it back to my origin story, I started writing for ESPN.com at 18 years old. And to my knowledge at the time, I was the youngest writer on the site. And I was not a full-time writer, but I was writing relatively consistently, at least a couple times, if not a few times per month for them. And to do that at 18 years old and to have some of the early success I had, I was expecting to be a superstar right away and to come out of school with all these offers and just having all this opportunity and to be a full-time writer and reporter coming out of school. But that did not happen. And I even graduated early. I was at college for 3.5 years. I graduated a semester early. I graduated winter 2013. I was supposed to graduate spring 2014. And I graduated early to start working, because I just didn't want to be in school. Like I viewed school as a vehicle to work. And I got a job with Fox Sports right away within a month, but it was not doing what I wanted to do. It was newsletter writing, it was editing, and it was a tough pill for me to swallow at the time and for a bit. Like the first 4 years of my post-college career, I was behind the scenes. I was doing editing stuff and was really pushing. Like at Fox Sports, I pushed to cover the Clippers for them because they had Fox Sports West and Fox Sports Prime Ticket. So I was pushing to go to games and was paying for parking and stuff like out of my own budget, not even expensing it, just to be in the building. I went to Clippers Warriors during the Sterling situation and was paying for that out of my own pocket. So I was pushing for reporting opportunities. And then at ESPN, I would get in trouble for going to games. And it was funny. I did a lot more writing for ESPN as a freelancer in college than I did when I was actually there, because there I was an editor and that was always the priority. So I would sometimes get in trouble for going to games and practices. There was one time I got in trouble for going to a practice where some news happened. No one else was there. So I was like, I'm here, I'll write about it. But then I got in trouble for being there when I wasn't supposed to be. And so I would push the limit a bit with this stuff, but it was not going the way I wanted it to go, to be completely honest. And, I think it required me to have some hard conversations with people at the time at ESPN about my future and about the direction I wanted to go. And the feedback I got was I had to leave. And if I was ever going to come back, it would have to go be a reporter somewhere else and then come back and be a reporter, come back as a reporter rather than become a reporter there. And I think even now I've had some doubts or second thoughts about is it better to work at a big company versus going at it solo or by myself? So I think doubts and struggles are going to pop up. It's about persevering through it. And for me, the thing was I could never see myself doing anything else. And I go back and speak to USC once or twice a semester. And that's the thing. I actually advise people not to get into this industry because it's a lot of part-time work. It's a lot of low salary and wages. the cost of entry is high because so many people want to do it, and everybody loves sports, right? And everybody loves talking about sports, whether you do it professionally or not. And it's such a competitive industry with so few opportunities that I do not advise people to go into this unless you can't imagine doing anything else. And that's how I was wired with this. The biggest thing for me is like, if you're going through that, I think having delusional self-confidence and self-belief that it is going to work out. If you are controlling what you can control and putting your best foot forward and working as hard as you can, that it is going to work out. I would also say that I advise leaning on your support system, leaning on the people closest to you, be it your partner, your friends, your siblings, your parents, your family, whatever. But I'm also a big proponent for therapy. I've been in therapy for years, not recently, like it's taken a couple of years off, but I've gone through a couple of down periods in my life where I was in therapy for several years and was at a couple of low points. So I think there's no shame in that. I'm glad that the stigma with therapy is going away. And I would say lean on the people closest to you. And if you don't have people close to you for whatever reason, or you don't find that that's helpful, or they're giving you the right answers or pointing you in the right direction, then that's where I think you could explore therapy. And look, I'm not a life coach. I'm not going to pretend to be a life coach. I'm just sharing with you my experience here. But there are times where you go through things and you need external help. And I think sometimes it's hard for us to admit that to ourselves. It's hard for us to admit that to other people. But the more vulnerable and honest you can be, I think that's a superpower. I think that helps you. And I think you will find the answers that you're looking for if you go look for them and look for them in productive and constructive ways. So I would say lean on your support system and or go to some therapy in addition to working on yourself and working as hard as you can and controlling what you can control. So I hope that points you in the right direction. But I've been there. I've been through some dark times myself, and it's not easy to get out of, and it's not easy to deal with adversity. But if you really practice some sort of mindfulness, whether it's meditation or prayer or whatever resonates most with you, I think if you can do that, work on self-belief and self-confidence, and then also lean on people in your life or go find someone to lean on professionally, I think you do that and everything will work itself out. Next one from Chuck Dangler, aka Fang Charlie. What is your all-time go-to favorite meal, and what food would you eat as a comfort food, if any? All-time favorite meal is steak frite, but a cheeseburger and fries is also up there. Some type of meat and potatoes. I guess I'm a meat and potatoes type of guy, but steak frite and cheeseburger and fries, In-N-Out, Shake Shack, those are my top two. Also, for those who know the LA area, Hi Ho is a big one for me. Easy Street. So those are some of my favorite burger places. I do have a sweet tooth, so I would say I am consistently having some form of dessert on a daily basis. I try to switch over to healthier options like Smart Sweets or some of these other sweets that are lower in sugar or just a little bit healthier, lower in calories. But I can't not have some type of sweet treat on a near daily basis. And then I also can't go too long without a burger. I just absolutely love burgers. I could have them every day of my life. And I have at least a couple of burgers a week. And I typically cook my own burgers so I can control the portion size and the oils I'm cooking with and the sodium and all that. But I just absolutely love burgers. So I guess burgers and dessert are my two comfort foods. Next one from Nell7900. When did your consistency begin? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I'm consistent. I'm not a robot. I'm human, so I make mistakes and I go through procrastination and laziness, and I try to set deadlines and kind of structure my life where I am forced to do certain things and I don't have the ability to take a step back and kind of just rest or whatever. But, certainly I deal with it just like anybody else. But I would say for me, ninth grade, going to my freshman year of high school was when I flipped a switch. Like in middle school, I was a bit of a class clown and like a C and D student, and was more consumed with being popular and liked and hanging out with my friends and stuff. And like going into ninth grade, I decided I wanted to be successful in whatever I wanted to do. And I, from that point on, was a 4.0 student all through high school, and just really took a focus on doing as well as I could, getting into the best school that I possibly could, and also, focusing on basketball. And so between playing basketball and focusing on school, like those were my two big priorities in high school. For my career, I would say it was my sophomore year. Like my freshman year, I rushed fraternity and didn't really start focusing on my career until like second semester, spring semester. So really sophomore year was when I got my breaks with Grantland and ESPN.com. And I was also writing for Clipper Blog, which was part of the True Hoop Network. So I would say like those are like the two big points for me. Was like freshman year of high school, I showed myself I could focus on something and be locked in and succeed in that. And then sophomore year of college was when I really focused on my career and started to make certain sacrifices in terms of going out less, living less of the typical college life, and really focusing on work and my career. So, but in terms of being consistent, I struggle with it. There's times I say I'm going to film or I'm sure for those of you who really pay attention to what I say, I'm dropping something. Sometimes I will say I'm dropping something. Like even this episode, I was supposed to drop on Monday and I just didn't feel like it. And I was still getting my voice back. And like, so you go through things. It's okay to be human. Obviously if you got a deadline for work and your job depends on it, that's a little bit of a different story, but like, you're going to go through ups and downs with your consistency. It's just about trying to be the best you can be as consistently as you can. But within that consistency, there's going to be inconsistency. I'm still trying to be more consistent than I currently am. Next one from LN Lifer. How bad does it hurt tearing your Achilles? In parentheses, it was your Achilles, right? And how impressive was it really when Kobe walked off the floor instead of being carried? For context here, I tore my Achilles playing basketball on my 31st birthday in October 2023, right before the 2023-24 season. And I'll say it didn't hurt as bad as I thought it would, because playing basketball, that was always my biggest fear, was tearing my Achilles and having to miss work. And lo and behold, I tore my Achilles and had to miss work. Only missed a couple weeks and actually traveled immediately after because I was told by the doctor I couldn't really make it any worse. So I went to a Lakers preseason game to close out the preseason down in Palm Springs. But it didn't hurt as bad as I thought because it happened so quickly. However, I could not move my leg. My leg collapsed. Like that was how I knew I tore my Achilles. So I could not put any pressure. I could not walk. The fact that Kobe was able to do that, I don't know. Like, I guess he was running on adrenaline, and he's a tough motherfucker. I guess like that's just what it is, right? I would say the worst part of tearing your Achilles, aside from like I'd go a month showering in a chair and with this sock thing on my leg, but the worst part for sure was the post-surgery, where I was on painkillers and stuff, but it didn't really help. It felt like someone sliced the back of my leg, which is exactly what happened. And the pain medication really messed up my stomach. And I had these incessant hiccups that just would last hours. And I eventually had to stop taking the pain medication and just deal with the pain compared to the hiccups, because the hiccups were burning my throat and it was just insufferable. So that first night after surgery, sleeping, I just had so much pain in my leg. It was brutal, but that was really it. Like that 24 to 48 hour period. There was also a period, which I guess if you tear your Achilles, you go through this, where you fall one time, and I fell, and you think you re-tore it because you get some pain. But thankfully I did not re-tear it. I would say my Mamba mentality moment was actually about 10 days in. I took my boot off and started walking around my apartment without the boot. And one of the interesting things that the surgeon told me in post-op was like, your brain has a defense mechanism where it no longer wants you to walk on that leg, and no longer wants you to put any pressure. So you're gonna have to fight that urge and that just defense mechanism from your body on a daily basis and fight through it. And it's going to have to be mind over matter of forcing yourself to walk and put pressure on it. And a lot of people who go through this don't walk for first month and a half, 2 months without the boot. And he told me, he's like, if you start walking today without the boot, and you got to be careful, you got to make sure you don't fall or slip, and like you got to do it within a confined space and making sure you're taking the proper precautions. But like if you can put a little pressure on your leg and on your Achilles and start stretching it and walking around a little bit, that will go a long way in your recovery. So I did that, and it was difficult at first, but I pushed through it. And that was the thing I was most proud with how I handled my Achilles post-recovery. And I advanced, I think, quicker than a lot of people with some of the things I was able to do. So I was pretty proud of that, but nothing like walking on it and hitting a couple free throws and just walking off like a badass like Kobe. So it was not quite at that level, but it was certainly something that inspired me. Next one from Spiritual Queen 2432. Shout out Sophia. Were there other careers that attracted you, or did you always know you have a radio voice? No other careers attracted me. I think the thing I've been most interested in outside of this, if I had to pick something else, would be going into psychology and being a therapist. I've always been told I give great advice to my friends and my loved ones, my family. So I'm someone that people come to and ask advice on different things. And I think I have an ability to look at things clearly and objectively and see both sides of stuff and try to just honestly assess it. So I would say being a therapist, maybe, if I had to pick something else. But the funny thing with this is that I've actually primarily focused on being a writer for most of my career and did print and digital journalism in college, and then was trying to be a writer and reporter through that lane for most of my career until recently. And I would say ever since I started, I've been told I have a good voice. I've also been told I'm a decent looking guy. So that combination led many to saying at some point in the future, I'd be on TV or on some form of video. So I think it was a matter of time until I just pursued this and went fully, all in. And we're here now. We're here. We are doing it. I've been doing it for 18 months and going to continue to do it for the foreseeable future. So I did decide to pivot away from writing, and I found podcasting and YouTube far more fulfilling and satisfying. And I can't imagine doing anything else. But I think for me, the big thing has been shifting over, leaning into the radio voice, leaning into my future, I guess, on camera. Next one from Jack Fierro 8803. If you could cover any other sport, what would you cover and what team? I would cover fantasy football. And I mentioned earlier how I love and am obsessed with fantasy football. Like that has been something in playing with friends and colleagues over the years, like just really fallen in love with it. So I actually always say, like, I'm not a sports fan. I'm an NBA fan. I'm a basketball fan. So that has always been my thing. Like I didn't grow up liking soccer or football or baseball or golf or whatever. I've had this laser focus on basketball and specifically the NBA, even like college basketball and WNBA. I have some interest in, but like the slice of the pie compared to the NBA is minuscule. Like I'm always been all NBA, like that's just how I've been. But I'm really into fantasy football and really the content around it. I follow a lot of fantasy football YouTube accounts and podcasts, and I get inspired by their stuff. I think a lot of their content creators do a lot of high level stuff that I try to learn from and take from and do my own version of that. So I would say fantasy football would be the thing that I would cover, but really I'm never going to cover anything else. It's going to be NBA until the day that I hang them up. Final one here from BK Designed. Who's your favorite team or teams to watch when you have free time? I love good basketball, so I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I'm an NBA hipster who loves all these obscure players and teams. I love good teams. I love stars and superstars. I love high level, really good basketball. So I have to start with Denver and Nikola Jokic, who's one of my favorite players of all time. He is Serbian, just like me. So I certainly have a bias with that. But just his passing and creativity, the skill level, and to me, he's been the best player in the league for the last 4 years. And just, he plays the game at such a high level. I love watching him play when I have free time. I love watching San Antonio, which kind of goes against the good team. But with Wemby, he's just such a unique player, a unique talent that we've just never seen before at that size. So seeing Wemby come into his own and watching San Antonio, they were on my list. Golden State with Steph and the ball movement, the shooting, the offense, and they were fun after they got Jimmy. Indiana, especially their second half of the season surge into the playoffs, and especially in the playoffs, they were my favorite team to watch overall, and the run that they went on. And then New York, I think there's something, especially with games at MSG, that the crowd, the atmosphere, the history there. Jalen Brunson has been an awesome player to watch the last few years, and just that was a fun team at times, especially when they were rolling. So those would be some of the teams. I mean, I primarily am watching the Lakers. I'm rewatching games. I'm looking at stats. I'm watching synergy. I'm talking to people. I'm consuming Lakers content. So I don't have a lot of time to watch other teams. And that's something I want to be a little bit better with this year is I do have League Pass, so I can watch games whenever. I do have synergy, so I can watch clips and possessions whenever. I want to watch some more teams and just get a better, like, I think I have a really strong knowledge for every team and what's going on, but I want to take that to an even higher level. But those are some of my favorite teams. Again, Denver, San Antonio, Golden State, Indiana, and New York. But that'll do it for today's show. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be doing a second Get to Know Me mailbag with another series of personal questions relating to my career and personal life and interests and all that. Got over 30 questions, so I wanted to split it up into a couple mailbags. But hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got to know me a little bit better. Would love to hear some of your favorite stuff, whether it's your favorite movies or Drake intros or favorite teams to watch or whatever. Anything I answered, I would love to know and hear from you guys in the comments, your perspective, your opinion, whether you disagree with me or you want to push back, whatever. Always love the discourse. But I appreciate you all so much for watching and listening. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back later in the week with a Lakers episode. I will talk to you then.